How's it going, Diablo fans? So today I'm super excited to show you my actually working Conjuration build. So this is going to be an X-Falls Conjuration build, and it's really so much fun to play. It's super relaxed. You will have a swarm of Conjurations going in front of you. You can use the double Hydra. You can just pretty much lean back and relax and see your Conjurations pretty much kill everything. And also you're gonna have amazing boss clearing speed. I was really hoping to be able to make Conjurations work by themselves, but unfortunately I was not able to do this. I just cannot spawn enough Conjurations to reach a critical mass without using an Applicator. Like in this build I'm using Spark Unstable Currents to spawn as many lightning spares as possible. And then I get the lowest possible cooldown on Unstable Currents, so I can pretty much have it up all the time, which gives me a critical mass of lightning spares, which then allows me to pretty much take everything out. This build is great for Nightmare Dungeons tier 100, this build is great for bosses, but this build is also super great for Helltide farming. So if you're going for Helltides, which I guess a lot of people are doing right now because we have to farm our Shakos for the Arbiter of Zir, right? This is actually super relaxed because you don't have to chase enemies. You don't have to click them, you don't have to run behind them, you pretty much just stand still, like run to the event, and then you just shoot into the air, and you know, and then the Conjurations are just gonna take care of everything else for you. And what you're gonna do after the event is over, you just pick up the cinders and go to the next one. So as always, you will find the link to the specific sections of this guide and to the planner in the description down below. Also at the very bottom of the description you will find links to all my other build guides if you're interested in that. And as always, before we go into the detailed guide, let me just quickly explain how this build works, and let's get right into it. So this build has mainly 4 sources of damage. The first source is Lightning Spare, the second one is Hydra, the third one is the X-Falls Corroded Signet together with the Firebolt enchantment, and the fourth one is Ball Lightnings coming from Unstable Currents. As you might have noticed, we are using Spark, and Spark is pretty much our Applicator. So what we can do here is we can stack a lot of basic skill attack speed on top of our regular attack speed, and with this we can actually attack like 4 times a second, which allows us to spawn as many lightning spares as humanly possible. Combined with the aspect of overwhelming currents, which we put on our amulet, we have another 30% chance to cast an additional skill while Unstable Currents is active. Then we stack cooldown reduction on every single gear piece, including our 2 rings, which are the X-Falls Corroded Signet and the Tarasha ring, and both of those rings actually have cooldown reduction, which is a stat which cannot normally roll on a ring. And together with the Anticipation Vampiric Power, we actually get our ultimate cooldown down to 30 seconds. But we're not gonna stop there. Additionally, we put the Hectic Vampiric Power on top of all of this, and the Hectic Vampiric Power will reduce a cooldown by 2 seconds for every 5 basic attacks we do. And since we're using Spark with a crazy high attack speed, you can imagine we do quite a bit of those. But wait, there's still more cooldown reduction going on here. So since we are playing a Conjuration build, we can actually use Ice Blades, and also we can use the Ice Blades enchantment. And Ice Blades will reduce our cooldowns by 0.1 second for every enemy Ice Blades hits. So every Ice Blade actually spawns 2 Ice Blades, and with the Ice Blade enchant and all the other cooldown reduction we have going on, we can pretty much have like 3 or 4 Ice Blades active at a time. So this reduces our cooldowns even further. And with all this cooldown reduction we can cast a lot of Ice Blades and a lot of lightning spares, and we can cast our ultimate all the time, but also we're gonna have a very high uptime on Flame Shield. And we need high uptime on Flame Shield in this build because first of all we don't want to die, but second of all we are using the T-Ball's Pens, and we don't have room for like stuff like Metamorphosis or Teleport in this build, so our only source of Unstoppable is actually Flame Shield here. But it's not a huge deal. Flame Shield has like 10 seconds cooldown in this build, and it has like a 2-second duration plus 4 seconds after that the T-Bolt's damage buff is still going to be applied, so that's pretty much 6 seconds. So after 6 seconds, I guarantee you, you're gonna have Flame Shield up again. So now since we have our cooldowns very low and we have unstable currents active all the time, let's see what's actually doing the damage here. So we have the lightning spears, the ice blades and the Hydras shooting all enemies all the time. They apply the Firebolt enchantment, and the Firebolt enchantment pretty much triggers the X-Falls, which does a lot of damage. But also we want to have a critical mass of conjurations. A lot of times we have like 20 conjurations up, and we use 6 points into Conjuration Mastery, which gives us a 6% damage increase per active conjurations. So as soon as you reach a critical mass of conjurations, like let's say 10 to 15, your Conjuration Mastery is actually going to town. And when you have high stacks of Conjuration Mastery, pretty much you don't even have to worry about what's happening. Like X-Falls explosions will do like 5 million damage a pop, and it's just gonna explode everything before you even see it, no problem. And that's just a quick rundown for this guide. Make sure to check the links in the description down below. Also at the very end of this guide I'm gonna leave you Nightmare Dungeons and Uber Lilith as usual. And let's now get into the detailed sections of the guide. So let's go over the skill tree. This is a little bit different since we are not using any core skills whatsoever. So we have 1 point into Spark, 1 point into Enhanced Spark, and 1 point into Glinting Spark. This pretty much gives us an additional 8% critical strike chance all the time, which is just super nice. And the remaining 3 points here to get access to the next level of skills, we just put into Firebolt, because we're using the Firebolt enchantment here. We're not going to put them into Spark, because Spark literally does no damage. It doesn't matter at all. So then we put 1 point into Flame Shield and 1 point into Enhanced Flame Shield for the movement speed, because with Asus boots this is gonna give us some extra critical strike chance. Keep in mind that there's a chance in this build that you can have like 100% uptime on Flame Shield. So if you have +3 on your amulet, +4 on your boots, you will not use Asus boots then, and another +4 from the Shaco helmet, you can actually obtain like, I believe it's like 4 seconds duration on Flame Shield. And if you have 4 seconds duration on Flame Shield, you might be able to have 100% uptime on Flame Shield. I don't have a Shaco, so I can't test it. As soon as I drop one, I will test this for you if this actually works or not. It would be awesome if it would work. I cannot verify it, but if you have a Shaco and if you have like 3 defensive amulet and stuff like that, you can try it out at the training dummy if you're like into that. Anyway, so we put 3 into Glass Cannon, 1 into Elemental Attunement. We are only using a single defensive skill, so Elemental Attunement will always reset our Flame Shield here, which is like really, really nice. Then we max out Hydra, or I have 4 points, I guess, into Hydra. Then we put 5 points into Lightning Spear, 1 point into Enhanced Lightning Spear, 1 point into Invoked Lightning Spear for the stun. For the Hydra, we put Enhanced Hydra and Invoked Hydra. We don't need the Burning on Hydra, it doesn't really do anything. We have the Firebolt enchantment anyway. And then we put 1 point into Ice Blades, into Summoned Ice Blades for the additional cooldown reduction. 3 points into Precision Magic for our X-Falls to proc more often. 1 point into Align the Elements, 3 into Mana Shield, 3 into Protection, pretty basic stuff. Then we put 3 into Conjuration Mastery, and you want to have +3 on your Amulet. That's really what drives this build. Without the +3 on your Amulet, you can go Devouring Blaze on your Amulet, but it's not going to be as strong. So really try to get +3 Conjuration Mastery on your Amulet. Then we put 1 into Inner Flames and 3 into Devouring Blaze, as we just said. And since we got some extra skill points, we max out Ball Lightning with Enhanced Ball Lightning. We're not playing any Crackling Energy, so we don't need Wizard's Ball Lightning. And this stun we also don't really need at all. If you don't feel like you want to max out Ball Lightning, you know what, that's fine. You don't have to do it. There's still damage coming out of this, but if you really, really want to give Conjurations like more chances, you can probably put these points somewhere else. Like you can max Hydra, you can max Ice Blade if you really want. Ice Blades do okay damage, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would still put the points into Ball Lightning here. This is just nice. Then we put 1 point into Unstable Currents. As you can see, our cooldown on Unstable Current here is 30 seconds. Like we have so much cooldown reduction, it really has a 30 seconds base cooldown here. So that's just super great. Then we put 1 point into Prime Unstable Currents to overcap our attack speed. Just 1 point into Causing Currents and 3 points into Electrocution. This is for the damage reduction. We don't put Conduction here since we don't really need the movement speed in this build. And then we take Asus Ferocity, since, well, currently this is bugged. So this damage basically counts for all skills, so this comes in very handy. As soon as this gets fixed, and also Verse Mastery is fixed, we use Verse Mastery, because Verse Mastery would actually do more damage, but the damage of Verse Mastery is not working, or at least it's not working on the target dummy. I did not verify if it's an issue with the target dummy or with the skill. It's very hard to verify, but at this point I just assume that Verse Mastery is bugged, and since Asus is bugged as well, we can just take Asus if there's bugs anyway, so we're probably just gonna live with it right now. For the skills, we still use Unstable Currents as our ultimate. This is what's driving this build pretty much. And then we want to put all Conjurations on our bar, so we have Lightning Spare, so we can cast it. Whenever we don't have Unstable Currents, we always want to cast Lightning Spare, but we, in general, also want to cast it when it comes off cooldown all the time. This helps us getting a critical mass of Conjuration Mastery. Same goes with Hydra. We want to have 2 active Hydras all the time for the Conjuration Mastery, and also the Hydras really do quite a bit of damage. Then we have Ice Blades, always casted on cooldown as well. This is going to give us enhanced cooldown reduction here. And also all the cooldowns used are going to work with the Ice Blades enchantment here. Then Flame Shield, we have a very high uptime. This is our primary defensive skill. It also triggers the ghosts from the seasonal mechanic, and it also applies the Unstoppable for the T-Ball's pants. So Flame Shield, well, pretty much use it either when you have to use it, because otherwise you would die, or when engaging strong packs or bosses, because this is gonna give you a 40% damage increase whenever you use it for like the full duration of 6 seconds together with T-Balls. And then we use the Spark. Again, Spark is just our applicator, so since we stacked a lot of basic skill attack speed, we have a very, very high attack speed on Spark, and this is just the best range skill we can use here, because we actually want to hit enemies to get the 8% critical strike chance bonus of Spark here. For our enchantments, we use Firebolt enchantment together with the X-Force Corroded Signet. Not going to talk anymore about this one. And the other enchantment is the Ice Blades enchantment. This has us have like 3 to 4 Ice Blades active at a time, which are further reducing our cooldowns, and they also buff our Conjuration Mastery. So this is a really nice combination of enchantments. You can also go with Ball Lightning enchantment. You're gonna have a little bit more group damage, I'm not gonna lie about this, but in this build I decided I'm not gonna use Ball Lightning enchantment, so not everybody is like, oh, this is just like a Ball Lightning build. So, well, we're not gonna do it here. No Ball Lightning enchantment. This is a clean Ball Lightning enchantment-less build. Okay, let's go through legendary aspects and unique items. So let's start with the offensive ones. So we use the Stormswell aspect on our wand. This gives us a 30% damage increase, just a flat multiplier. It's in general a great aspect to have. Then we use the Rapid aspect. This gives us 30% increased basic skill attack speed. Don't think that you can use the accelerating aspect here, because the accelerating aspect actually requires you to use core skills to trigger it, and we are not casting core skills here. So this gives us a 30% attack speed increase on basic skills, and basic skill attack speed stacks on top of the regular attack speed, so this is just such a great aspect for this build. Then on our amulet we use the Overwhelming Currents. This gives us 30% extra chance to cast an additional skill while Unstable Currents is active. We have Unstable Currents active all the time, so this is gonna significantly increase the rates of lightning spares we can put out here. And last but not least, for the offensive ones, we use the Serpentines aspect for the additional Hydra. You could use an offensive aspect if you don't feel like you need the second Hydra. I just feel like the Hydras do great damage, and the additional Hydra gives 6% increased damage with the Conjuration Mastery anyway, so any other aspect would give 20% here, yes, but I tried it and I was missing the second Hydra, so I put the second Hydra on here. As for defensives, we put the ever-living aspect here to squeeze out a little bit more damage reduction, and then we use the aspect of disobedience. That is pretty much everything for our defensive aspects. And the rest of our gear is unique items, so we use the X-Force Corroded Signet, try to get the highest possible cooldown reduction roll here. Then we use the Tarasha's Iridescent Loop, same story, try to get the highest cooldown reduction roll. We use the Asus Boots. We don't have movement speed on our amulet here, or we don't. I have it, but you don't have to have it, I guess. So try to get the highest critical strike chance roll here, really. We get the movement speed pretty much from the evade of the Asus Boots and also from Flame Shield. Then we use T-Balls. Maximum resource doesn't matter here at all, so just go for the 40%. Really, everything is irrelevant. Everything else is irrelevant. Let's go over the items and stat priorities. You can find the dream stats in the planner link in the description down below. So on our helmet, we want to have basic skill attack speed, total armor, cooldown reduction, and ranks of lightning spare. You could swap the basic skill attack speed for ranks of Hydra. I guess the damage outcome would pretty much be the same. I just like the basic skill attack speed here a little bit more. On our chest, we want to go defensives and maximum life, so total armor, maximum life, and damage reduction stats. That's pretty much the perfect piece here. On our gloves, we want to have attack speed, critical strike chance, lucky hit chance, and main stat. I think main stat is the best here because we don't really need anything else on our gloves here, and 62 intelligence is actually 6.2% damage increase, so don't underestimate intelligence main stat. On our T-Balls, stats do not matter at all, just get the highest possible roll with the damage increase. On our Asus Boots, try to get the highest possible critical strike chance roll while not having like a terrible movement speed roll. My rule of the thumb is always get like 25% crit chance at least with the highest movement speed possible. And on our X-Falls, again, the explosion damage, it's not so important how much you get there. It's just a difference of like 10 to 12% in damage. Get the highest cooldown reduction roll here, if possible. Same for Tarasha. You don't have to get the 15%. This is a pretty nice piece, but I also farmed like a long time for these. Again, get the highest cooldown reduction roll while not having a terrible roll. So if you have a 13% or 13.5% with high cooldown reduction, that's going to do just fine. Then on our wand, we want to have all stats, intelligence, and 2 damage stats. Damage to close enemies is here probably not the best one. You could probably get critical strike damage or vulnerable damage. That would be better. And on our focus, we want to have main stat, basic skill attack speed, cooldown reduction. And the 4th stat is pretty much, well, it doesn't actually matter so much. You could get all stats. You could get damage reduction from burning. So it doesn't really matter. Like, the most important stats are basic skill attack speed, cooldown reduction, and intelligence. Again here, stack the intelligence, take the extra 5% damage, because you're really not going to need any like mana cost reduction or resource generation or stuff like that in this build, since we are not actually using any resource at all. And last but not least, the amulet. Cooldown reduction, rank of conjuration skills, and rank of conjuration mastery, and percent intelligence would be the perfect one here. You can also have mastery skills that helps with boss fights, so ball lightning does a little bit more damage. You could also go movement speed for a little bit more crit, so the stat is pretty much optional, the 3rd slot. You really want to have cooldown reduction, conjuration skills, and conjuration mastery if possible. Okay, Vampiric Powers, I really like. It took me a lot of time to figure this out because there's just so many options, and in the end I think I got the best solution for me right here. So I take the anticipation for the extra 20% cooldown reduction. This actually brings you down from 40 to like 30. Like if I take it out, you see I have like 38.7. And if I put it back in, I go down to like 30 seconds. So this actually matters. Like I wouldn't skip this. You can of course skip this if you want and put in like something like Undying or whatever you want, but I wouldn't skip this. Ravenous is pretty much mandatory. We need the attack speed. Then I'm using the Accursed Touch with Prey on the Weak. Because I just want to have extra damage to vulnerable. I want to have all the damage, all the enemies vulnerable, and also the increased souls damage does matter quite a lot. I actually tried with Coven's Fangs here. It doesn't work because you don't have the Vampiric Curse spreading, and you really need that. The 30% lucky hit chance on Conjurations is just very, very low. So it doesn't really apply the Vampiric Curse enough. Yes, you get a nice 52% damage to crowd-controlled enemies. If I would put this on, you would probably get rid of anticipation for this, because in a Nightmare Dungeon scenario, this 52% is a really great damage increase, right? It doesn't work on bosses, yes, but on regular damages, this is literally like a huge damage increase. So I don't have a spot for it. I would love to use it, but unfortunately I can't. And the last spot that we use here is Hectic. This reduces our cooldowns even further. The build will also work without this. You have to try it out for yourself. I feel like I need the Hectic to get the build running the best way. But you could also, for example, remove the Hectic and add the Coven's Fangs here, for example. So you can pretty much play around with these Vampiric Powers. There's a lot of combinations you can play. I just feel like this combination is the best one. And as I said, I tried it a lot. Okay, the Paragon board here is super damage focused. At first I tried to do a Paragon board focused on conjuration damage, but it doesn't seem to work out. Like it wasn't great. My X-Force wasn't doing the damage it needed. And in general, the boss damage was lower because the ball lightning wouldn't get the damage. So I kind of changed it a little bit to focus a little bit less on conjuration damage, but a little bit more on unconditional damage here. So we got the non-physical damage here in the board. We put in the Elementalist as pretty much always in this board here for 15% damage increase. We use the nodes here and the resistance nodes here. Then we go to the next board, which is actually the Elemental Summoner. We choose the Elemental Summoner node. It gives a nice 35% damage increase, and it's actually very, very close to the glyph socket. That makes it a great node, because usually legendary nodes you need like 15 nodes to get there. Here you actually just need like 4 extra nodes to get it, and the 10% reduced cooldown is great, and the 35% damage increase is great as well. We get the non-physical damage nodes, and we get the resistance and conjuration skill damage here, and we put in the conjurer glyph here with 60 intelligence. We mainly just use it for the 20% increased duration. Yes, it gives 158 additive conjuration skill damage, but this doesn't actually matter that much. It's more about the 20% increased duration. Then let's move over to the next board. That is going to be the Enchantment Master. Again, we pick up all the non-physical damage nodes here and the resistance nodes, and then we slot in the Tactician glyph to boost these nodes even further and also give us 10% increased damage after casting Flame Shield. Then let's move over to the next board. That is going to be the Burning Instinct. We just get the damage reduction node here. We don't get the damage node. I just couldn't find the points to do so, because to reach this node you actually need get 3 extra nodes here, and I felt like I have better nodes elsewhere. We put in the Destruction glyph for extended critical strike damage and 12% multiplicative critical strike damage. Then we move over to the next board. That is going to be the Keysless Conduit. We just pick up the glyph socket here with 49 dexterity and the Flame Feeder glyph. This gives us 10% increased damage and 97% additive damage. The lightning damage node here doesn't really matter, but I guess it's a nice to have. Then moving over to the next board, that is going to be the Frigid Fate board. We just picked this for the legendary node pretty much, because this gives us a 30% damage increase for all skills. So this works for all skills, not just cold skills. And then we put in the Enchanter glyph here for another 85% non-physical damage. And we get all this non-physical damage because first of all, it increases our Frigid Fate bonus to 30%, but also the non-physical damage node will increase the Elemental Summoner here for 35%. And already said, I put in the Enchanter Glyph, we use the Frigid Fate here. And then let's go over to the last board. That is going to be the Searing Heat board. Again, we just use this for the glyph. So we just pick up this glyph and put in Exploit with just 42% damage. We just care about the 10% multiplicative damage increase, and we just get like some random fire resistance node here just to get this dexterity node. Okay, how would we play this on the Eternal Realm? So this build is heavily focused on Vampiric Powers. While you can definitely play this on Eternal, your kill speed is going to be significantly lower, because a lot of the skills we use are pretty much contributing a lot to this build. So first change on Eternal, you don't have the Ravenous, so you can supplement the aspect of Ancient Flame for this to give you 50% extra attack speed with Asus Ferocity. And you would remove the additional Hydra for this, so you put this on the gloves in this example here. That's gonna fix your attack speed problem. Then, next stop is the Prey on the Weak and the Accursed Touch. So this is pretty much giving vulnerable. You're not gonna have this. So you can either say, you know what, screw vulnerable. You just rely on the vulnerable from the Ice Blades. Maybe you could add in Frost Nova to apply additional vulnerable. Or you could just skip it entirely. There's really no other option to apply it in this build, unfortunately. The Hectic is optional, it's a nice to have, but you don't really need it. Same goes for Anticipation, it's optional, you don't really need it. So you're just gonna be a little bit slower overall, but the build is still gonna work pretty much the same way. And that's it for this guide. So I'm going to leave you 3 Nightmare Dungeons now. And also at the very end there's Uber Lilith. Keep in mind for Uber Lilith I did a small change. I changed the Firebolt enchantment to Ball Lightning enchantment, and I changed the Hydra from critical strike damage to burn damage. That's just gonna get her down like way faster. And furthermore I also put on a Godslayer crown there. You don't have to, but it just kills it a little bit faster, and you know, that's pretty much just for the showcase. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I really like this build. It's so much fun playing. I'm actually still playing it right now. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.